So I'm off out on a little hiking trip tomorrow, and I wanted to test a couple of the features of the Durston X-Mid. So I thought we could have a little chat about it and just tell you some of the reasons why I think it is the best one-person tent anyway that you can get in the 200 to 300 price bracket. First, we'll have a look at it in its standard configuration. It isn't perfect, by the way. There are one or two things that would improve it for me anyway. We'll have a look at those as well. So I think that this is version 3 of the X-Mid. So Dan Durston, who's the owner of the company, he's constantly listening to the users of the tent. So he's always making little tweaks and improvements. And because he's not like ordering thousands and thousands of the tents in one go, he can afford to make changes quickly. And whereas some of the bigger manufacturers, it takes them a long time to change their tents. So the first thing that I really like about this is the weight. I think it weighs about 750 grams for the complete tent. So it's a really lightweight bit of kit. It is a trekking pole tent though, so you have got to factor in the weight of your poles as well. But I use those anyway, so it doesn't really affect me. I'm taking those no matter what. So 750 gram tent. So I went for the standard version. It's the mesh inner. You can get a solid version as well, which I have owned before. The great thing about it is you can buy both the mesh and the solid inner, so you can swap it depending on what time of year it is. So in the summer, get the mesh out, and in the winter when things start to get a little bit colder, you get the solid version, and these just swap out really easy. I will be showing you some different features with the setups in a little bit later. It's really easy to pitch as well. So simply you throw the tent out, peg out the 4 corners into a rectangle, insert your poles, lift them up, and you've got a really sturdy shelter. That's the next thing that I really like about it. It is incredibly sturdy. Let me show you. So I haven't got it pegged out everywhere. We've just got the 4 corners, and then there's these 2 little guy lines which just support the, you know, the ridge of the A-frame. Doors open as well, which so if it was closed it would be even stronger. But this is going nowhere. Pyramid design tent is arguably the strongest design out there. They've been using it for centuries. You know, Native American Indians with their teepees. It is just a phenomenal structure when it comes to tents. It is quite breezy today, and I've had my X-Mid before in 30-40 mile an hour winds, and I wouldn't want to be doing that all the time, but it held its own really well. It's not specifically a mountain tent, but for what it is, and when you're caught out in it, it is really sturdy. But if you want belts and braces and you want to carry more pegs, there are plenty of other tie out points as well. There's guy out points on these larger panels here. You know, you can add as much or as little when it comes to guying out as you want. But the beauty of this design is you just need 4 pegs basically to get it up and get out of the elements. You can always add the little extra ones later. So the next thing that I really like about it is the amount of space you've got inside. You know, I can fit in the vestibule. So if I needed to, I could get changed in here, get out my wet clothes, keeping my inner tent really dry. Although we don't need that shut in this weather, do we? While we're here as well, it's got magnetic door ties. It just makes it easier. Although, one of the first things that I don't like about it is, unless you really take your time on rolling it up, you know, after a little while and it flaps around, you know, this starts to sag a little bit. I feel like it needs 2 of those, but you know, you're going to be adding little bits of weight and a little bit of cost to the manufacturing process as well, I suppose. But one does the job, and if you want to really secure it, just bring a clothes peg with you, clip it on there. But it doesn't need it, but 2 would be better. Just have a look at the amount of space you've got inside though. This thing for 1-man tent is massive. Like I said, you've got all of this vestibule space twice, so you've got exactly the same at the other side. So you've got 2 doors, so that's one out there for your sunset, and then when you wake up in the morning you open this door and you've got the sunrise. So it is it's a really versatile bit of kit. Although I don't feel that I need 2 vestibules. I suppose I could just put my wet gear in that one and then have my cooking stuff in this side. It would be great if this inner section just went all the way over there, so you had even more room inside, so you could bring all of your kit in. Although there is plenty of room in here, you can get a wide pad in there, which is 25 inches what I use, and then you've still got loads because of the angle of it. So the geometry of this tent is genius, really. So the inner goes offset to the actual outer fly. I will put a diagram on the screen, which I'll steal from Dan's website, but that allows you to have this extra space, and it also allows you to have the pole geometry as well. So a lot of trekking pole tents, let me come on out, because they have the pole section in the middle there, you've got to like fanny about getting in smaller gaps where the poles are. Because the pole's offset, it allows you to have loads of space to get in and out of it, which is really good. Yeah, but the only downside to that is, like I say, you can't put extra inner space in there unless you had a little hole in there for your trekking pole, which would have to go inside. But it swings and roundabouts. Either you want extra vestibule space in entrances, or you want inner space. If you want the extra inner space, I recommend you have a look at the X Dome, because that has got geometry that suits that kind of thing. But that is in the trekking pole tent. So moving on to the space inside. So I am right at the end of the tent here. There's a good couple of foot at the end where my feet are. But because you've got these poles at an offset like this, you've got headspace, and a lot of headspace, no matter which side you're sitting. So if you get into your tent and you find that you're on a slight incline, and you want to switch from your head end being at this end to down there, it's really easy to do, and you've still got loads of space either way. So it also means as well, so when you're laid down in your tent, you know, you've got loads of headroom. So once you're on your sleeping pad, you've not got, you know, mesh inner hitting in your face like you do with a lot of trekking pole tents. Tents like the Lanshan and stuff like that, it's got a really, you know, shallow angle. These have got steep sides, so you can either get tent in your face or your feet in your sleeping bag are touching the sides of the tent, so you can often get wet bag from your condensation. For a one-man tent, the amount of space in here is unbeatable. It's a lovely, comfortable space to be in. There's also plenty of pockets as well. These ones are good, so you can just put your flashlight or headlight in there, so it, you know, it acts as your lantern thing. So you don't need to have a separate lantern, just use your head torch. You've got big pockets there as well. It's exactly the same both sides. Loads of storage options. The bathtub floor comes really high as well, so eliminates a few of those drafts. And if you get a flood in your camp, you know, you're not going to get water running in. It's magnetic little hooks on here as well on the inner. They're very clever. They're not the strongest. They're not as strong as a toggle, but it's quicker. It depends on which you want, to be honest with you. I've seen where people modify things. You know, they might put an extra one in if they want to. You do you. I'm going to leave mine as it is. Let's get back outside, and before I show you the next thing I love about a tent, I want to quickly thank Squarespace, who sponsored the video today. So if you've never heard of Squarespace before, I reckon they're the #1 place to go if you want to have a go at building a website all by yourself. So both me and Joe have been using Squarespace for a few years now to build our websites. I mainly use mine for promoting my YouTube channel, my online raffles, as well as sending out email newsletters, whereas Joe, she uses the built-in e-commerce features for selling her artwork and paintings. Neither of us have got a clue when it comes to web design or coding. So all we did was choose one of their ready-made templates. We uploaded our own photos, added some text, and within a couple of hours, we had a website. The platform's got loads of other different features as well. You can set up subscription services, upload online video courses, you name it, it's got it. And one of my personal favourites is the analytics, where you can check which parts of the world all of the people are visiting your website from. So if you fancy having a go at building a website of your own, if you click the link in the description below or head over to squarespace.com/Paul Messner, you'll get a 14-day trial, and when you're ready to go live, you'll get 10% off your first purchase of a domain or a website. Right, back to the X-Mid. So the next thing I really love about it is the quality. It is really well made, well put together, double stitched everywhere. You know, the finish of it is perfect. There's, you know, there's some tents that you might find little frayed threads sticking out here and there. This has got none of that. All the zips are really good quality. You know, all of the little pull outs and, you know, guy out points are really good quality. Dyneema cord, waterproof zippers, all of that kind of thing. And the material of the fly sheet, so it is a silpoly fly sheet. So usually in this kind of price range, you get a sil nylon fly, and then you get a polyurethane coating on the inside, which is all right. It's fine, but this is actually silicon coated polyester, silpoly as it's called. And nylon tents, you know, when they get wet, you know, the fabric tends to stretch. It absorbs a little bit of water, so when you pack your tent away in the morning, a nylon tent will have some water retained in it, and in the middle of the night you might need to tighten things up a bit. Whereas this silpoly, it doesn't absorb any water, so it doesn't stretch, and in the morning you just give it a quick wipe down and it is dry. So there's no like water absorbed in it. So silpoly is one of those materials at the minute which is one of the better materials in my opinion. That's certainly better than silicon coated on one side nylon and then polyurethane on the inside coated. Sil nylon, silicon coated both sides, is arguably a little bit stronger, but you know, you can't tape the seams on it, whereas this has got tape seams. So on sil nylon you would have to seam seal your tent. None of that's required with the X-Mid. Really good bit of kit, to be honest with you, and really well made. Right, so the next thing that I love about this tent, which makes it great, is its versatility. It's not just a case of you can only pitch it one way. There are numerous different configurations in which you can pitch this tent, so it makes it really, really versatile. I'm just going to show you one now, which is like I'm going to call it a semi-stargazer mode, where you can open half of the tent. If the weather's really nice, it gives you loads of ventilation, and then if it started raining in the middle of the night, you could quickly pull the fly back down, so you've got, you know, good weather resistance. You'll have to bear with me because I've never had a go at pitching it like this before. So if I disconnect the inner from the outer, it's really easy to do. It's just one little clip, and then I'm just going to put the peg onto the inner there. If I unzip the door now, roll this all the way up here, stick that over the top like that. There's something I haven't done on here actually, this is my mistake. So you can, with your trekking poles, let me take this out, put your pole in there, that's it, and that just pulls your inner so it's nice and taut. That was my bad, I didn't do that. So now I can sleep and stare at the stars. So much more ventilation in here now. Yeah, and then if it started raining again, quickly bring this back down. Clip that back on. I could, if I wanted to, just leave this there instead of clipping it back on, but and then I could keep switching between the two, but I'll just clip it on. If you wanted to as well, do that from both sides, and that way you've got everything open, and then you can just quickly drop everything back down again when the rain started to fall. This is solid. One of the most popular questions that I get is, what is the best tent for the 200 to 300 price range? So I paid £268, I think it was, for this tent. I think it's £15 to get it shipped. I will pop my receipt on the screen, but the whole thing cost me £301 because I paid a little bit extra and I bought the Stargazer Kit. Never had it out of the bag yet, so we're gonna have a go with that in a second. Yeah, that just gives you probably the most versatility when it comes to pitching options. So you could actually just make one of those Stargazer kits yourself, but having that means I can pitch the inner and the outer together, which I have done now. Because it's so easy to clip in and out, I'm going to remove the inner in a second. I can just have the outer fly pitched. If it's raining in the morning and I want to keep my inner tent dry for the next day, I can just drop this down, roll it up, put it in a dry bag, so everything just clips in and out. So easy. And then when it comes to pitching up later that evening, put your fly sheet up by itself. You can then wipe all of your inner out if it is a little bit wet still, and then clip in your inner tent and you're ready to go again. Nice and dry shelter. So the amount of space you've got in here now, it is massive. You could easily get 2 people in here. And because you've got good headroom at either end, you know, if you've got the inner out, let's say you're stopping for lunch halfway through the day and it's raining and you want somewhere to dry, you can put this up with 4 pegs really quickly. You and your mate can sit under here, cook your dinner, and you're out of the elements. It's really handy having that option. And if you live in an area where you haven't got to worry about bugs, you've got acres of space. You can proper spread out. I always like a bit of bug protection though. Right, let's have a go with this Stargazer kit. So I'm going to leave this tent pegged out because I need it tomorrow. So I'm going to clip the inner back in when I've done with it. So it's much easier. I can just do that with the poles in. I need the poles to try the Stargazer Kit. I should have watched Dan's video first, shouldn't I, on how to do it. We'll be fine. Believe. Right, so in here you get these 2 little grommets with a clip with a guy line attached to it. So this clips onto there. Pole tip through the grommet. That way, I'm guessing. Could be wrong. Peg it out. This might need tweaking. Let's hope I don't get a copyright claim. There we go. Stargazer mode fully deployed. So you could, if you wanted, probably just put a guy line on there from this little clip, you know, a clovitch or something around there, and then down to your peg. This little setup just makes it that bit easier. I suppose this would be lovely for nights like this. Maybe we'll see tomorrow. You know, where you just want to lay out in front of the stars, get a nice breeze so you're getting good airflow. You ain't got to really worry about condensation unless there's a massive dew in the morning. This just stops the bugs biting you. Yeah, I like that. Nice little bonus added feature. Let's get the full tent put back together. I'll tell you a few things that I don't like about it, and then round things up a little bit. So as I was saying, pitching the tent and putting it back together is really easy. Simply put your pole into this little eyelet here, raise it up once you've got it pitched out the 4 corners, and then zip it down. But this is actually, you know, the first thing that I don't like about the tent so much. The X-Mid Pro, you know, and most other trekking pole tents, you pitch it with the handle facing upwards, which I prefer. This is fine. You know, it does lock in there like that, no problem at all. But if you had a problem where, you know, one of your tent pegs pulled out for whatever reason, let's say the ground was soft, and things started flapping about, there is potential for your pole to slip. I know it has happened with people before. The pole has slipped and this tungsten tip is really sharp and it will go straight through your fly sheet. So most of the time, you know, I just pitch it that way anyway, handles up, but you do you. But it is meant to be tips up, but it works fine this way as well. So putting this inner in, really easy, clips in the corner. Plenty of room inside for doing it as well. In some smaller tents can be a faff. And there's just 2 clips at the top. This one's a little bit tougher because the pole, I've got the baskets on my poles, so they get in the way a bit. So I need 2 hands. There we go. Good as new. So the couple of things that I don't like about it. Now these are not deal breakers by any means, and they are quite minor. I mentioned already the door ties. I do like the magnets for ease of use, and they are strong enough, but I would like to. Just to spread the load of this, and then this would not flap about at all. I'm not mad on this little thing that goes around your trekking pole. I'd rather have something that you could just wrap around it and undo. This, you know, something with a little bit of Velcro, just, whereas at the minute I've got to like either wiggle it around somehow to get this underneath, or, you know, break the tension in my pole just to get it round. What I normally do is end up undoing it a little bit, sticking that around my pole tip, and then pushing the tension back up again. But, you know, I'd rather it was just a Velcro clip that just went round it. Again, very minor. I would definitely prefer it if there was a couple of little pockets up there just for putting your pole handles in, as opposed to being tip up. Personal preference, I guess, with that. This works perfectly fine. You just have to be careful, that make sure that you've got your pegs in really well. The pegs that come with it are pretty good actually. Some small ones here for around the edges, but you get 4 large ones, and I definitely use these on the 4 corners. Push these all the way down to this little lip, you know, because you want a really good anchor on there. I've not bothered on this occasion, but if it was windy, you know, you don't want this coming out at all. That is when you're going to get potential anyway for this pole to slip out of here. I've never had it done myself. You always make sure that you've got your pegs really well secured on that bit there, and you've got good tension on it. This one is not a biggie, but the one that I would say bothers me the most. You can't zip it down from the top. You know, I like to be able to zip down a little bit just to allow a little bit of ventilation, or just have a little sneak preview from inside my tent on a morning. I can see why they haven't put one in. This is an AquaGuard zip, so it is waterproof, and you know, if you had a zip at the top, then you would get a potential point there where water could get in. To get around that, they'd probably have to put little, you know, like lips over the top of here to protect the zip once it's up, and then you're starting adding more to the manufacturing, more fail points and stuff like that. It's not a biggie, but I prefer to have a little bit of a zip from both directions. I do like that the tent comes with, you know, these guy lines pre-installed. You know, pretty much everything is ready to go. I would have liked to have seen, so like on this one here, you know, you've got little, you know, tie out points there for adding a little bit of tension here and there. But on these extra ones, I know they are belts and braces for you. I would have liked to just see in a little bit of a loop of guy line or something, because, you know, it's very rare that you're having this particular tent right down to the ground. So this is almost at the ground here. But as you go further along, you know, these panels are cut in a certain way, so they are cut with a little bit of a camber on there to allow good airflow, which is great, but you don't want to be doing that, pegging that directly to the ground. You're much better having it there and then a little bit of a loop off here. Just keeps everything, you know, nice and in line really. Again, that's not a biggie, it's just me being picky. The vents are decent, happy enough with these. These are better. So the original one that I had, the vents were kind of up here on the door, and it was a bit of a faff. It wasn't as good at all. Much better since Dan moved them to the end. So like I said, he's constantly innovating his tents. So this is, I think it's version 3 now. It is quite windy, and I've not got every guy in out point on there, and the tent's it's really solid. I haven't put any side guidelines on here. Again, these are optional. So you could put something out here as well, just to give you that belts and braces thing. But other than those couple of little moans, I've got no complaints at all about this tent. It packs down really, really small. I'll put that on screen now just to show you. You can put it in different configurations, so you can get it in a long thin bag or the short and stumpy bags, so it can fit on the top of your rucksack. That's the one I prefer. It's just my opinion, but I don't think you can get a better tent for under 300 quid. Oh, one other thing, that it's either a positive or a flaw, and it is that it is a trekking pole tent. Now if you don't use trekking poles, this is not the tent for you, because the trekking poles, you know, would mean that you're getting a much heavier tent. But if you're using them anyway, it's a no-brainer for me. You know, Dan's got 2 tents out in this space. He's got the X-Mid, which is if you use a trekking pole, and he's got the X-Dome if you don't use a trekking pole. That X-Dome comes in 2 different versions as well, a carbon pole version and an aluminium pole version. I think for the UK, probably be better off with the aluminium pole version. So obviously 1 or 2 of you will disagree with me, and some of you will say that maybe this review is biased or paid for or whatever, but I bought and paid for this tent with my own money, and when all things are considered, including the price, the weight, the amount of space you've got inside, how storm worthy it is, the quality of the materials, all of that kind of thing, the versatility of it, the different ways you can pitch it, I think personally, pound for pound, it's the best tent you can get for the money. If you think otherwise, let everyone know in the comments below and explain your reasons why. I know you've got things like the nature height tents, you've got the Lanshan tents. Yeah, I've tried them, I've used them. I don't think that they're as good as this. I'm not saying they can't do a job. If you've got 300 quid to spend on a tent and you use trekking poles, this is what I'd buy. This is what I've bought. At least I've put my money where my mouth is. Anyway, there you go. Best tent on the market for £300, according to me anyway. Thanks for watching. See you next time.